let's face it, water brushes are very convenient. But when it comes to paint application, they definitely take the back seat to the regular watercolor brushes. But you are so lucky that you stumbled on this video, because in a minute I'll show you these 4 original and even a little unorthodox techniques that you can create using the water brush. I guarantee you'd want to dust yours off and give it a go. Hi, I'm Layla, a professional artist. Welcome to my studio. And remember to bookmark this page, this channel, by subscribing. That way you'll be able to come back here anytime you wanna see some more new techniques, so cool, juicy tricks that you can use in your artworks. That way you're taking a little bit of the power away from YouTube in terms of what it wants to suggest for you, because we all know sometimes it doesn't go really well, does it? And another thing that I'd like to remind you guys is that remember that creativity is one of the ways that we can give back to the world. So share this video with your loved ones and feel more joy and inspiration come your way. The paint set, paper and brushes I'll be using in this demonstration were sent to me by Woomer to test out and share my thoughts with you. They did not sponsor the video in any way, and the links under the video are non-affiliate, so I don't earn anything from them. It looks like this is a little travel set. It does have 36 colors, 2 water brushes, as well as a couple of sponges, which can be useful if you are using water brushes. It also has a little swatch card with all the printed information on it about the light fastness, the paint coverage, pigments contained in the paint, and so on. It's wonderful. I love it when it's all already done for you, so you don't need to be rewriting things and storing all that information elsewhere. As far as my first impressions are, it looks like a comfortable palette with a good mixing space and big variety of colors, brushes, and pretty much everything you need if you want to travel with a little palette. And now swatching all of this, I have a feeling that this palette is not the the highest sort of a rank of artist grade paint. To me, it feels like a good quality student grade, just because some of the colors are really weak and I couldn't get intensity out of them. It also took me a little bit of time to dampen the paint, to pick it up on the brush. So if you get a set like this, make sure that you either spray or apply water with a brush or a dropper before you get into painting. I didn't do that, but I'm sort of testing things out just to see how things work. Pretty much all the colors, of course there's a variety. Some colors, like for example iron yellow, I had quite trouble getting any kind of intensity. I actually spent quite a few minutes just trying to pick it up and layer it on, and it was still very, very transparent. If you've got a larger palette, you will get some colors that you pretty much can mix up yourself, like the reds here. So you've got the orange, then you've got red orange, then you get vermilion, then permanent red, crimson red, and of course you've got the sort of the pinks and violets here. But if you have this one and this one, you don't really need that. You can mix them up together, although they are different sort of pigments there. But yeah, but you will always get that in the larger set, and the larger the set, the more of repeats that you would be getting through the set, no matter whether it's pencils, felt tips, or watercolor. Now, what else can I say? There are lots of colors with mixed pigments, and I think in fact there's 16 colors that is marked here that have a single pigment. But then there are some colors like this one, for example, and it stays gray, and it says that it's got PBK 7 pigment. But to me, I think this would be PBK 7 mixed with the PW6, which is the white pigment. Just like here. You see, this is the same pigment as this one, but mixed with a bit of white. So you can see that, you know, stated there. So I have a feeling that there will be a white pigment in here premixed as well. Although, you know, I don't really know. Some colors are quite interesting, like this violet here, and that sort of separates into a pinkier color and the bluer color because there is a mix of the two colors like this. So PB29, which is ultramarine here, you can see that on its own, and PV23, yeah, so that would be more of a sort of a purpley color, but I don't think I can't find it separately on its own here. So it separates. Then there was another color that was separating. This one here. I like how when it's diluted, it sort of becomes more yellowy. Again, because there are two pigments mixed in this color, and one of them is yellow. There are really weak colors, like, you know, like this one here, that one there. I couldn't mix up a rich enough color to apply them. But I guess there are other colors in the set, you know, like say for example yellow ochre, which is kind of like an intense version of that. So if I want this to be that, I'll just add more water to it. You know, it's every brand, and even different sets within brands usually have their own feel, you know, their own sort of a variation. And sometimes you might really love the selection of, I don't know, blues in one set, and then the selection of yellows in another set, because there are so many different variations, so many different tastes of things that you might like or dislike. We also have brushes here, the water brushes, so a flat brush and a pointy brush. But let's see how it performs. I'll be using this. If I'm using something else, not from the set, I will let you know. And now let's have a closer look at the water brushes and the unusual and innovative ways you can use them. As always, I will start with the more common and well-known ways, and then move to the crazy good ones that I can't wait to share with you. Now, it's a great design. It's a brush that has its own vessel, which you can fill up with water, and then when you go somewhere, you can use this brush without needing an extra little cup to wash your brush. Now, as I've mentioned before, I don't really like to use these brushes the way that they were intended to be used, just because I find that the water dispersion is a little bit tricky to control. They're okay for coloring things in, or, you know, doing something like this, maybe wetting your paint, diluting that and having a go. But if I want to maybe create something super detailed, or, you know, have more ways of using a brush like I normally would my actual watercolor brushes, I find that these can be a little bit tricky. So my take on taking brushes with you when you travel is reserving brushes like this to take with me when I'm on the go. Something that has a reasonably short handle, something that's quite versatile, so has a good tip, but also is quite sort of a thick here, so it can hold quite a bit of water, and you can always cap it like that. Sometimes in the shops you can actually see special traveling brushes. They have like a metal little plastic little cap that you can screw up on here and then put it on the back when you're actually working with it, but they're usually quite a bit more expensive. So I find a little tube like that is very cheap and very effective. Of course, it means I have to carry a little bottle of water with me so that I can paint with this brush. But I want to show you the different ways you can use this brush, which are really, really cool, and go beyond what this brush was designed for. Okay, so technique number one that I am going to show you today is something that you may have seen somewhere. It's not very common, but this is something that, you know, does float up here and there on YouTube. So this is using your regular painting brush, but using water brush as a helping tool. So for example, some techniques might require you using quite a bit of water. What you can do is you can lend a helping hand to your actual brush with the water brush. So we start with placing a few dots in the specifically designated area where you're going to create this effect. Next, you pick up some paint on your regular brush, and then you introduce that paint from your brush onto the area where you've dropped your water. So something like this. And you see, I don't need to worry that there is enough water there because I've got water sitting here and waiting for me. Okay, so here I'm going in with another color. And you see how beautifully this paint moves just because there's so much water in there, even though it's sort of more of a student grade paint, but still it creates beautiful blooms because of the technique with the water brush. This kind of technique also facilitates granulation. Here is a different way that you can use this as an element, as addition to your other works that you might be working on. So we drip the paint. Then you want to use paint out of the tube. So now I'm going to be using a different brand, not the one that I'm testing, just because of, comfortability of using something out of the tube. So just squeezing it onto the side of the palette knife and then rushing it through the water drops. And you can create this very abstract, very free-flowing result. This can be part of any loose watercolor painting, whether it's abstract or semi-abstract, but you get these super beautiful, beautiful effects that are very hard to create with your regular brush. Okay, now we are actually starting to get into a much more interesting category of, tips and techniques with these brushes. So for this technique, I would suggest either getting a liquid ink, or you can always get liquid watercolor, which kind of looks like this. I know different brands do this. You can also get liquid acrylics and all sorts of things. So you can choose what you want to use. I've got two different colors. I've got brown and I've got black ink. So I don't know, which one should I go for? Eeny, meeny, miny, moe. I'll go for the brown one. So what you want to do is first move your cat out of the way. Go over there, sit on the cushion. Then you want to grab your brush and fill up the well of the water brush. The cool thing about this technique is that you are creating your own ink brush, which is portable, which can be stored anywhere you want, and just very, very convenient in use. And I'll show you how it works. If you are enjoying videos here on YouTube, remember that I also have a Patreon page that you might like to check out. I have more videos there, more tutorials, more in-depth, even art critique videos. You can vote for the next tutorial that you'd like to see, and if you choose a specific tier, you will be able to suggest the videos. If you would like to see something specific or you would like to get in touch with me, that is a perfect place to do that. So make sure to go and check it out, and I look forward to seeing you there soon. Just like you would regularly do it with water, you can just and then get your regular brush and create the most incredible landscapes. You can also do this kind of a trick. Just look how beautiful these things are. You can go over areas that have already dried. Now, why is this water brush trick so perfect? Well, first of all, you can create all of these wonderful ink pens and you can custom make your own color. You see here, I'm using color straight from the bottle, but you can pre-mix them. You can take a green and mix it with a blue and get a very different color in one pen. You can take 15 different pens and fill them up with various ink colors. Ink is absolutely beautiful to work with, but if you are on the go, it's a big no-no. It's a chunky bottle. If it spills anywhere, you can imagine how much trouble you will be in. These brushes, all you need to do, just recap the lid, and it's so great to take with you. So again, it is intended to be used on the go, but here you can see just how much more versatile it is, because all of a sudden you can actually put liquid paint into it, ink or anything else, and have such beautiful effects. So you can see how beautiful the effects that you can create. And this is just monochrome is just one color. So just to make another note, this is an ink. This is not the paint that I got in the set. And if you want to use paint for this technique, I suggest to actually go and get liquid watercolor, which you can buy, and it'll give you a little bit of a different effect, but also very beautiful. So next technique is also quite a bit of fun and can also be used in the studio or on the go. Okay, so for this next trick, I'm actually going to fill the brush up with the granulation medium. Now, the beauty of this technique is not just using granulation medium like this, but being able to mix it up in this brush with water, because you can mix granulation medium with water. That will help you to extend your granulation medium and save you money, but also it will help you to just keep a little brush like this on you, whether you're traveling or whether you're working in the studio, indoors. You can just pull the brush out and go for it. You don't need to premix it or anything else. Only when that little reservoir runs out, you would have to do this thing again and refill it up again. With both the ink technique and the granulation medium technique, it also helps to preserve the product in a better condition, because when you're using it, the cap will be undone. Not only can you spill it more readily, but also just having it open and having it in constant contact with air, it's going to degrade the actual quality of whatever you're using. Having it in the brush like this, not only is it closed off, but you're very unlikely to spill it or cause a whole bottle to spoil because of that. So the pluses of having your granulating medium in a little water brush is that not only does it help you to disperse the granulating medium exactly where you want it, but you also have the bristles to swish the paint around if you need to. And as I mentioned before, you can premix it. You can make your own mixes. So you can make it 50-50 with water, or 75-25 with water, whatever your heart desires. You can even, if you have paint in tubes, you can literally mix that paint with granulating medium, diluted in that, and then put it in here. So then again, it makes it a granulating color in the brush. Only stops where your imagination stops. So you can take it as far as you want. And you can create these wonderful things on the go without having to worry about carrying a full bottle with you if you are one of those people that likes to take a set of paint somewhere. Maybe you like to paint when you get a free time. Maybe you like to do a quick sketch when you're traveling. Or perhaps you might be one of those people that just likes to have a little set with you. Even in the studio, this is a very convenient way to use this, especially if you don't have a pipette around that you can use to apply the granulating medium on. As I said, the world is your oyster here. Please also keep in mind that while I am painting all of this, I'm using new paint, so this is kind of me also getting acquainted to this set as well. So what I have noticed is that when it seems to be quite wet, it looks quite granulating, but when it dries quite flat. I'm not sure if it has to do with the paper or if it has something to do with the paint, but anyways, keep watching. And what I will do is at the end of the video, when I show you all the techniques, I will do a little review, proper review of this set. Okay, so as you can see, the main thing that you want to do is you want to work free with the granulating medium, kind of let the paint go anywhere it wants, and then you can always create a couple of sharp few details to really bring that whole thing together. Now, having said that, this is my favorite way of working. If you're one of those people that loves abstract, that loves very ambiguous colors and things like that, and really want to open it up for the viewer's eye to complete the whole scene, and find what it is that they see in there, then you can skip the process of little details. Okay, and now I want to show you the last technique and the use of these water brushes. And this might be even stranger to you than the previous ones. Now for this last fourth technique, I am going to fill up my water brush with isopropyl alcohol. This is not because you might decide to warm yourself up when you are painting on the plein air outdoors. This is going to create one of the most incredible techniques. I don't think I use enough of it in my art, but it's beautiful. Okay, now we're ready to start painting. For this technique, you paint as normal. And now, with your pen that's filled with ink, you can put any kind of markings that you might like. So you want to start as regular, use reasonably damp paint, maybe even dampen your paper if you wish so. The only trick is that you need to apply the alcohol while the paint is still damp. If it's dry, you won't get the same effect. In fact, the amount of pigment and amount of water on your paper at the time of you applying the alcohol will result in very different effect when it's dry. And look how beautiful it is. You can create lines, you can create spots, you can anything. I mean, you can even just smash the brush against something and dribble little spots of alcohol all over your artwork. Every technique produces a very unusual feel and creates a really random, really sort of unforgettable patterns. This is the kind of a technique where if you see it on the artist's work and you don't know about it, you just wonder how was it possible, how was it done? Very different from when you drop water or apply water onto semi-drying paint. I actually have few other videos where I talk about different techniques. I'll link them all, well, I just add them all in the description box under the video, so you can watch those as well if you'd like. But this is just something super, super cool. Very hard to use if you just have a little bottle of alcohol. You can always use it with a spray as well. It's a good idea. But using it with the water brush is one of the really, really cool ways to not only have your alcohol nice and safe without evaporating in the, with the lid closed on the brush, but also just so handy to use. And again, if you want to travel and take it with you, you wouldn't take a whole little jar of alcohol, a bottle of it, but having a little brush like that on you can, really create so many different effects. As I said, it's very different from if you're dropping water on your semi-dry paint. It actually creates like a little halo effect. So you actually get a dark center and then this drop that's lighter in color, and then sometimes you can even get different rings of different color intensity, so they can create really beautiful effects. I know on this work it was a little bit different, but I've also made a separate swatch just to show you what it can be on a larger sort of area. And a word of warning, make sure that you label your brushes, especially if it all looks like similar kind of liquid. So if you've got water, if you've got alcohol or granulation medium, they all look the same. And if you confuse them, sometimes it can be okay, but sometimes it can cause you a lot of trouble. So labeling them is a real must. You can also add labels to the different colors of the ink, especially if you create your own mixes. It'll just be super helpful and you wouldn't need to guess or try and remember anything. So just a minute of work that is going to save you a lot of grief a couple of months from now if you decide to use these. Now, for those of you who have been watching this video for the review of this paint, this 36 color Woomer watercolor paint set, It has a couple of sponges, which, you know, I haven't used in the video, but if you're working with this on the go, for example, like that. Oh, this is actually, you'd have to hold it like this if you're working on the go. And I haven't really used the palette because I wasn't doing much color mixing, but palette is quite obvious. They're not very deep areas, so you might not be able to mix like an actual puddle of paint, but it's sufficient enough to sort of, you know, gives you enough area to mix certain colors. And the sponge, of course, as well, when you're working with a brush like this, you can just wipe it off on the sponge if you need to clean it. But I always suggest taking either a rug or something like a tissue with you, and then you can just put a rubber band or like even a hair sort of elastic, and keep a paper towel tucked in like that, so you've got something there, and if you need to, you can just wipe your brush. What can I say about the quality of the paint? So you saw my first impressions of it. So there's a little swatch thing, lots of different colors, and so on. Now, while I was working with this, I did struggle. Now, remember this work here, I've used ink, so it's not the paint here. So I'm just going to put it away straight away. And this paint, this one as well, where I had to use paint out of the tube because you can't really use it for that technique either. So here are the 3 artworks that I did only using the paint in the set. What can I tell you? Some of the colors are very beautiful, very intense, like you can see here on that flower, you know, with that drop technique. You can see really strong color combinations, and I think this is what that technique is perfect for as well, you know, that drop technique. You can create very fluid, but at the same time very intense colors, because you don't need to have so much water on the brush. You already have it on here, and you have perfect control as well. And you can see how with this it actually created a really interesting look, very intense, strong colors, contrast, and even a little bit of granulation just from the amount of water that was on there. Now, if you look at this little artwork here, what can I say? I sort of struggled a little bit with intensity, and here at the front I had to create few separate layers just to build up the darkness of the paint, because as soon as the paint comes in contact with quite a bit of water, it just becomes very soft and very faint, versus what I usually, you know, find with other paint. Maybe it's a specific color, I don't know, but I used, like in this part on the bottom that I want to be quite intense, I used this one for the softer gradient. Then I've added this color, and then I started adding the browns, and I tried different ones, but they were all very, very, very diluted. Actually, same with the yellows and things as well. So I've used this iron yellow, and then I've used medium yellow, and with medium yellow I actually had to go over and just keep adding the color. So I could achieve the intensity, but I had to adjust my technique, and I had to layer it up quite a bit, which I sort of feel like a little bit of a letdown. And with me being quite practiced with all of this, having quite a, you know, wide experience, I can come up with different ways to go around certain limitations. But if you're a beginner, you might not be able to just instantly figure out what you need to do to counteract that, and you might feel that you're a little bit unhappy with what you've painted. But if you're one of those people that loves working in very soft colors, and you don't like using sort of really intense colors like this in most of your art, then you'll probably love this, because it's already is designed to make that painting super soft for you. And for many people, watercolor is about super soft colors versus very intense deep colors. This one here, I've used color much more intense and way less water. And of course, you know, this is one of the ways you can create a more intense color, I guess with any watercolor, but still here I find you have to use even more of the paint than regularly. Here, these colors, this is definitely sort of autumn colors, and they're usually in autumn you get that sort of earthiness, but you also get the contrast between the light and the dark colors. You know, things seem to be a little bit darker, a little bit more in the shadow. So that's why it has such an autumn feel. The reaction of alcohol, though, with paint it's hard to judge it on the paint alone because it usually responds to the paper as well quite a bit. And what I'll tell you is that, you know how I got this pack? I am not sure. It's definitely heavy paper. It'll be something around 300 GSM, I'd say. There's no marking on the packaging or anything like this. The thing that I did like about it is that it has very different grains on two sides. So one side is very rough and the other one is still rough but a bit smoother. Now I find that granulation actually happens a bit better on the smoother side, interestingly enough. So I've tried them. I'll bring these back as well. So this was on the back side, the smoother side. This was also on the smoother side, and this one was on the rougher side. This one was on the rougher, and this one was on the smoother. So I sort of tried it on both sides, and both of these were actually really, really interesting. The brushes themselves, they're quite lovely. They're one of the brushes that I used for alcohol is one of the brushes that I already previously had because I didn't want to empty these out. But they are quite useful. They are like regular brushes, even better that I've noticed that they actually have this little thing. So maybe if you have like a pencil case, something like this, you can slot these in to keep in place. Like the one that I had from before, this would have been from some other side, I think. It doesn't have that. Or as I said, if you've got like a little ribbon there or something like that, you can always just pop it right there like that. Yeah, so overall, the actual set is fine. There were some issues with paint, so I'll just go over them again. Very, very faint. Some of the colors are very faint like this. You can't get it any richer than what it is. And the same thing that I found in the work as well. I ended up mixing browns and things to make this a bit darker. I also found that some colors, because I filmed this over a few days. I did the test out, the first impression on one day, and this is now a different separate time. So I've placed a little bit of water. I dropped a little bit of water on the paint to revert it a bit easier because I found it sort of sitting there for a few minutes, just trying to get the paint going. And I found this really strange thing. I haven't had that happen even with the student grade paint before. It sort of it swelled up, which makes sense. Of course, you add water, it swells up. But then when I started picking it up, it sort of almost comes up in little crumbs. So just something to be aware of if you get the set, to maybe not apply it in a drop, maybe still go over with a brush and wear it with a brush or use a spray bottle. And it didn't happen with all the colors. Like you can even see now on the palette, some of the colors definitely sort of swell up and it's almost cracked, whereas some colors just stayed flat and moist. So yeah, I'm not really sure what it has to do with. So in my opinion, this is more like a student grade set. Definitely not the artist grade. So if you are one of those people who is just thinking of trying watercolor or trying coloring in books, or maybe having a little thing that is easy to take with you and has such a big variety of colors, maybe then this is quite good for you. Have a look at the price. If this compares well to the brands that you see around your local shops, then by all means go for it. If you're one of those people, you already have a good quality student grade paint with the colors that you like, the intensity that you like, this is not going to change the way you paint. This is not going to make things, take things to the next level or anything like this. And of course, if you have artist grade, you really don't need this. The brushes are quite handy, but as I said before, you can always buy them separately as well. So this is sort of my feeling about this set. Yeah, I also find it quite interesting that when you actually open it, because it is designed to be taken with you, the lid kind of drops back. Would be much handy if it sort of stayed a little bit like that, flat, because then you don't have to hold it like that together if you're painting, and you could just hold it like this and work with it. But yeah, this is quite, because it is designed to be taken with you. So this is my feeling about this. Overall, it looks like a really lovely compact little box, and I like that the paper comes with it as well, so you kind of have a little set already to take with you. As I said, it's very convenient. Hopefully this gave you a good feeling of what this is like, and I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you did, or maybe you even use your brushes in some other way. and share on that video. A lot of viewers read comments and look at things, and it's always good. I love the fact that this channel is turning into this sort of a little creative community, and we can all share together. Because remember, sometimes some things we can come up with ourselves, maybe something you've heard somewhere else. Just share all those things. And if you guys read tips of other people, make sure you give them a like, just to sort of cheer them on that they shared something that maybe you found useful as well. So that way we can make things more fun and more knowledgeable for each other. And it's always good to sort of have that community where people are cheering each other on. I want to say, as always, thank you to my wonderful patrons. You guys are great. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. Thank you for watching videos on Patreon as well, because I've got lots of interesting things over there. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I will see you soon in the next video. Bye bye.